Sit right down and I'll show you where my dreams began.
I'm Michael Dugan, your culinary host, guiding you through the chef's journey. Join me at the chef's table, where you'll experience stories, secret sauces, signature dishes, and kitchen disasters. Today on the show, I am really excited to tell you about our chef. It's Chef Hugo Couton, and he inherited his father's passion and knowledge for quality ingredients and gained extensive experience in catering and culinary arts. He now assists in producing lobster oil and leads the promotional e-commerce section of his team's business with a fresh vision. And he comes to us from Vancouver, Canada. Well, welcome, Hugo. Thanks for being here today.
Thank you. Can you guys hear me?
Hugo, maybe you can continue the story. Can you tell me what it's like, or what it was like growing up with your father as a chef and kind of around that environment? Can you share a little bit about that to start?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, first of all, I'm super lucky and thankful, to be honest with you. Having a father that's not just traveled around the world, but fell in love in the culinary arts. Always coming home for dinner. It was always a different dish. It was always something different. My dad loves fishing and hunting, so and mushroom picking. So all that kind of stuff kind of gathers together. And going for dinners at my dad's house, or even when I was younger, either having a moose roast, or going from some kind of Thai dish that I've never heard of in my life before. Super lucky and thankful, to be honest with you. I still live at home with them, and I'm soon about to move out, but I've been starting to take a bit of notes on all these different recipes that he's been doing, because to be honest with you, I'm not at that level at all. But to go back to your question, it's just been an amazing and great journey, to be honest with you, to be able to go home and have literally a different dish from anywhere around the world. It's just been amazing, honestly. Very thankful. Yeah. Can you guys hear me or no?
And so growing up with your dad and kind of in the limelight of a chef, can you tell us more about, what you worked with him is kind of what I got out of the conversation. And what was that like? Like, how did you start to become a chef? And can you take us through that part of the journey a little bit?
Yeah, for sure. So my background, a little bit more, I do enjoy cooking. I don't consider myself too much of a chef, to be completely honest with you.
That's okay.
I was always more the taster in the family.
Okay.
Always open to try new things. But having a father that's been in the business for, I don't know, I hope I'm not saying this too wrong, but maybe 30 plus years ish, you kind of fall into the habit of on wanting to eat the good quality food, and really paying attention to ingredients at a grocery store, or just experimenting a little bit more with dishes and sauces, right? But how it kind of all started was mostly with the lobster oil, right? I never really was a good chef, right? But when he kind of started that, it brought me on this journey. That's when it kind of opened my eye a little bit more, and wanting to explore the culinary arts, I should say.
As we're going along and talking about this, can you walk us through, since you're talking about the lobster oil, what is the process of making lobster oil?
Yeah, for sure. So how it works is we actually only use lobster shells. We don't use lobster meat. So roughly every year we do, I think, about just over 6,000 liters of lobster oil. And so what we do is we order the shells from Nova Scotia, because that's the lobsters that we use from the Atlantic side of the ocean. Yeah, and then we get a bunch of different ingredients. Like our base is canola oil with a bunch of different seasonal vegetables, garlic, thyme, onions, and then it's a whole process. It's a 2-day thing pretty much for us.
Oh wow.
Yeah. We just we use ovens to roast everything all together, and then put in some kind of grinder, like a machine that grinds it all into a paste. And then we work with a bottling plant here in Vancouver called what's called Premium Pacific, I believe. And they have a giant kettle, and then they kind of, cook the oil to a certain temperature to kill all the bacteria, get everything tested with the labs here to make sure we are good to go and into the bottling process, and that's pretty much it.
Wow. So it's about a 2-day process that you make
Yeah,
magic.
yeah, like for us cooking, it's 2 days, and then actually maybe the whole process would probably take a week just because we have to book in a time for that, for the kettle and all this kind of stuff. But for us, making that paste is roughly like my father and I, we just remade one recently. I think we did a little bit more or a little bit less than what we did last time. We did in like a day and a half. We did 6,000, roughly 6,000 liters of lobster oil together in less
Oh
than
my
2 days. Yeah,
gosh.
it's a pretty busy day.
Oh my gosh. How many bottles would that equate to?
Oof, that's a great question.
I'm not testing your math. I'm just
No,
trying to
it's
help
okay.
people
I'll be honest.
visualize. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I think when my
Okay.
dad placed the order for how many bottles, we sell them in cases of 12, but we also do them in 16-liter jugs as well, right? So it's kind of hard to know, but I know roughly we did, I think, just under 400 cases for this one, roughly. Yeah, maybe.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. Oh my gosh. And so take us through this journey, right? So how did you connect with the people in Nova Scotia? I'm so curious, and I think our listeners are as well. Like, how do you make that contact? And if you're just joining us, I want to welcome Hiromi, Lawrence, Christopher, and Chef Mimi, who's our co-founder of Food is Religion. We're talking about lobster oil right now and the production and this incredible idea of creating lobster oil. So can you tell us a little bit more about that? Like what's the relationship? How did you establish the relationship, your father and yourself with Nova
Yeah,
Scotia?
yeah. I mean, like, it's a good question because obviously it's been a business for, I believe, over 20 years.
Okay.
He started in 1996, right? So we're going a little bit way back, and I was born in
Wow.
97.
Oh my gosh.
But,
Okay.
but yeah, no, it's a really interesting story.
Hmm.
I'm not sure if you guys talked about that on the episode yet, but how it kind of all started is, my dad traveling all over the world. Like I think he was just in Montreal before he came to Vancouver, I believe.
Okay.
And he was, kind of hired, or he was offered a position at this restaurant called the Cannery, really well known, really, popular seafood restaurant in Vancouver. For your foodie and you're in British Columbia, you would know of the Cannery. And
Uh-huh.
yeah, and then when he joined, he, usually when you go to like some, pretty good restaurants, usually they'll give you some like bread and butter or like some olive oil. But really how it started was just a random idea where my dad's like, I don't want to do the bread and butter thing. I want to do something completely different. So,
I love
lobster,
that.
yeah, it was just a random, not, it was just a random thought of his. Like, it wasn't something that he was, researching for a long time. Like, it was just like a random idea, like lobster oil. Is that a thing, right? And
That is
then,
a thing,
yeah,
Hugo.
yeah,
That is a thing. I'm
yeah,
drooling when I think about it. I've never had it, so I have
yeah.
to come up to Vancouver and check it out, but or
We'll
just
send you a
get some from
bottle.
you. That would be
We'll send you a
amazing, man.
bottle
I am
for sure.
drooling when I think about this. I'm not
Yeah.
kidding, and I think other people will be as well.
Yeah, yeah, no, it's been an interesting journey, and at first, like it was never a business. It was just to have something, it's a little bit different than any other restaurants, right? So you'd come in, order your food and drinks, and then the waiter would bring the drinks, and then right after that, they'd bring like a bread of like a basket of like warm baguette with some
Oh my
balsamic
God.
and lobster oil as a dip. Yeah, it's pretty
Oh
good.
wow. And so did you have or did they have lobster oil incorporated into some of the dishes like pasta and and things like that or
Yeah, yeah, I believe he did use it for a few dishes. I mean, my
okay.
dad's the kind of guy that likes to try like different things. But I think it was in probably like I think it was in a pasta dish, definitely in the past, and
Uh-huh.
then some kind of salad dressing for sure. I mean, that's the unique thing about our product. It's very versatile, even though it's
Okay.
seafood, right? But yeah, it was really interesting. And then, people wanted to buy the product. Like they were like, "Oh, is this like can we buy a bottle?" And he never really sold it
Oh my
until,
gosh.
yeah, yeah. And then one day he asked the general manager if he can do a business out of it. He's like, "No problem." And that's how
Wow.
the journey kind of started. Yeah, in 1996. Yeah,
That
long
is
time.
an amazing story. I mean, that, and your dad is so humble. Like, I have
Hmm.
not met a French chef that's that humble. Just just haven't. And I think it probably comes from his world knowledge, that he's traveled around the world. And I remember him saying he cooked for the king and queen of Thailand. And
He was living in Thailand for 2 years with my mom at the time, and he was the executive chef for the kitchen for the king and queen of Thailand for 2 years, pretty much. Yeah.
wow, that, and just so everyone understands how we met, I literally was fascinated by lobster oil, and I pinged Hugo on Instagram. We had a conversation and we just connected immediately. And it's like, we need to bring you on Clubhouse. We need to have an interview on Voice4Chefs. We need to talk about podcasting, because we're going to get into that too as well.
Yeah.
But so are there any particular trends right now that you've noticed driving increased interest in lobster oil?
Honestly, it's been really tough because it's a very like niche product. Like I'm gonna be honest with you,
I get it.
99% of the time when I tell someone about lobster, they're like, lobster what? They always kind of question it, right? So it's been a little bit tough. Like, that's why, I came into the business in 2019. I believe I was,
Sure.
I think 20. And what was missing is we didn't ever have any social media. Like, we didn't have a Facebook account, we didn't have Instagram or anything like that, right? So what my job was is to kind of promote it. My dad already had the business, so I just had to put in the work and
Okay.
create content and stuff. So what I pretty much did is create an Instagram account, and then I would post like new recipes every week on how to incorporate the lobster oil, because again, most people don't know what lobster oil is, right? And
Right.
so that's what I've been doing in the past. Just every week, I'm not a really good chef, so my videos weren't like the best. I'll be completely honest with you guys,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
but it was just really an easy way to show people that, like, oh wow, like this is a unique product, and how can we use it to our cooking, I guess, right? So
Wow. Like, are there any dishes that you cooked with your father along the way that you just love that your father makes?
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, I remember my dad, we made a cornbread once, a chorizo cornbread with
Okay.
the lobster oil. What we did is we pretty much just added the lobster oil to the not the dough, but to the mixture of the cornbread, pretty much. And that was really delicious. Or another simple way is just like seared scallops with lobster oil. Super simple, but really delicious.
Yeah, I'm going to read a couple comments here that I want to share with you. So,
Yeah, please do.
Chef Mimi says, speaking with Chef Hugo on how to make lobster oil, and such a great way to not waste food using lobster shells to make lobster oil. And I so agree with this, Chef Mimi, because every time I have lobster with my wife or friends, I always save all the shells. I create a stock, but I freeze the stock, and the flavor kind of goes out of it. But with lobster oil, it seems like, can you have that on the shelf and just literally use it, or do you have to refrigerate it?
Yeah, good question. It is shellfish, right? So we do say, like, it has to be refrigerated once it's open. Shellfish is one of those allergies. If you get sick from it, it's not going to be pretty, right? So say that it has to be refrigerated once open. But if it's closed, if it hasn't been opened before, I mean, we've
Mm-hmm.
had some bottles since like 2016. And of course, the flavor is a little bit different, like slightly, but
Yeah.
we've opened a bottle that hasn't been opened since 2016. We just wanted to try it, and I mean, I felt fine. He felt fine, but it has to be
Okay.
refrigerated. You don't want to mess with
Right.
that.
Right. But the thing about it is, like, when I make lobster stock, it doesn't last forever. A
Yeah,
month or two and you're done. You gotta use it up.
right.
And
Yeah.
it's amazing because that shelf life could be for a long time. So that's
Hmm.
incredible. And Chef Mimi says she would love to use your lobster oil for her dumplings or lobster ravioli, which I think is incredible. I mean, I remember having lobster ravioli in Italian restaurants, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, with lobster oil, that would be amazing. Just a few extra pieces of lobster meat, right?
Yeah,
And
that sounds delicious. The
and
dumplings.
she is an amazing cook. I look at her posts all the time. She's a Michelin trained chef and does pop-ups, and she's also, as I mentioned, our co-founder of this incredible club, Food is Religion. She wants to know about your journey on how you went from having a good idea to commercializing it. Go to
Yeah.
food trade shows to introduce it, or what did you do there to market it and commercialize it?
Yeah, great question. Yeah, so for me, like I didn't really have any, sales experience when I first started doing this. Like, I was I'm the type of personality, I have lots of energy, always loved meeting people. I guess I was kind of like a little bit of a salesman without being a salesman, just always
I can tell.
love
Yeah.
networking
Yeah,
and
me too.
talking to people.
Yep.
Um,
Absolutely. Girl.
but yeah, for me, it was always going to be a side business. It's such a neat product. Like, what can we do with this, right? So what I just started doing, again, I wasn't really into social media at the time or anything like that. I didn't know any
Mm-hmm.
strategies. So how it pretty much started is I just created an Instagram account, started posting pictures of the lobster oil, and then just good old not cold calling, but cold calling, but also in Vancouver, I would just go to stores that, are like, have like food specialty stores or fishmongers. And then I would just kind of go in there with a bottle of lobster oil, do a bit of a presentation and get them to try it and then pretty much go from there. And then also, cold calling as well has been another good way of that. But when it comes to food and trade shows, we haven't
Uh-huh.
done that yet, but we did do a Christmas market, I believe, was
Okay.
it last year? And that was like super successful. But we're just pretty busy with our own lives as well. So it's hard to just focus on this when you have a bunch of other things going along as well.
Sure.
But yeah, like pretty much, yeah, cold calling, literally going to stores and presenting them a product that they've never heard before and getting them to try has been what's been successful for us, to be honest with you. Yeah. Keeping it to the
Well,
basics.
yeah, I'm hoping that this gets the word out for you a little bit because I just think what you're doing is incredible, and anything I can do to help on the podcast here on Clubhouse with making connections, just reach out. Honestly.
I'm glad we met because it's funny. I did have Clubhouse in the past, actually. I got
Mm-hmm.
it like kind of when it just started, becoming popular. And
Yeah,
I kind of fell off just because I don't know why I didn't stick to it. It's such a good networking app.
it really is.
You know what I mean? So I'm glad that we were able to connect, and I'm super excited to see you guys and thrive with your stuff, and I'm happy to be part of
Yeah.
that.
Well, stay in this community because food is religion. It,
Yeah.
it put it put my podcast on the map. I mean, I am grateful forever to Chef Mimi and all the members here. It's an amazing, supportive community, and people will
hmm
absolutely love you. Members that are interested in other things. So,
No, that's great. Yeah, because I was thinking about it in a food perspective, right? But
hmm
yeah, talking
hmm
about it more in a business way. Yeah, there's so many influencers. Like, for example, there's a gentleman called Gary Vaynerchuk, who is I don't know if anybody's heard about him before. He has like his own marketing agencies. He's all about marketing, marketing, marketing. I think if anybody is wanting to start a business or needs motivation or anything, I think he's been one of the guys that kind of changed my perspective on business and marketing. Gary
okay.
Vaynerchuk. I don't know how to spell his last name. To less anymore, but it's called How I Built This with
Oh,
Guy Raz. Does that sound familiar at all
okay.
to you?
Okay. Wow. Not to me,
Yeah.
but maybe to others.
Okay.
But I do want to pause for a second
Yeah.
because one of my favorite people in the whole world is here with us, which is Hiromi. And I met her in a TikTok room, and she's an amazing person on Clubhouse, and she follows Gary Vee. And
Ah.
so she said he is the reason why I started TikTok in the beginning of 2020. And she blew up on TikTok. I mean, she has an amazing number of followers. She's also a Clubhouse icon, one of the most recent. So just want to honor you, Harumi. Just so I want to put it out there because I'm a huge fan, and it's really cool how all three of you are connected to Gary Vee, or both of you are connected to Gary Vee.
Yeah, he's great, honestly. I mean, when it comes to marketing, there's a bunch of other people. It's hard, right? Because it's easy to get lost, and it's good to find your top 5 or 10 or whatever, and just stick to that. I think for a bit, in my opinion. But everybody's different.
Yeah, I hear you. So as we go along here, is there anyone that's mentored you in your life that you want to give a shout out to? I know your father, of course, but is there anyone else?
You don't know what to make for dinner again? You want to explore new cuisines, but you don't have time? What if you have new inspirations and we provide you with the ingredients and recipes? We know you want to travel, learn new foods, explore the world, but life's responsibilities keep getting in your way. What if you can bring those experiences to your home neatly packed into a box? Ladybug Collective is a subscription service that finds real people from around the world to create beautifully curated assortments of recipes, ingredients, and cultural content. Not only do we include cultural ingredients, but also a set of detailed recipe cards with instructions on how to use them. Each box also has a QR code that, when scanned, takes you to tons more global exploration to immerse yourself in. Everything from film to lifestyle, art to history, it all can be found here. Live your life to the fullest. Subscribe now and don't miss out on the next cultural adventure. Ladybug Collective. Always exploring.
Yeah, well, actually, I think he's gone now. I'm in Montreal in Quebec right now.
Okay.
But one of my best friends, his name's Cali Desjardins. He's into fitness and fashion, so it's a little bit different.
Sure.
But big shout out to him. If it wasn't really for him, I don't think I would have embarked on this lobster oil journey or been as motivated to put
Wow.
myself. Yeah, to be honest with you, I don't know if he's here. I think he just left. So
Can you share?
yeah, yeah, of course, yeah.
Okay.
So my friend Callie, he's into the fashion industry. I don't know much about fashion, so I'm not gonna go into detail
Sure.
about that, to be honest with you guys. But
Concepts.
pretty much what he started doing is, I think at the beginning he wanted to be a fitness trainer to start his journey, but he always had passion for clothing. So what he did is he created a fitness account like you see all over now on TikTok and Instagram. But he was pretty early onto the game, so there wasn't too much content like that. And then he's the one that, showed me Gary Vee. He's the one that showed me a bunch of influencers and really kind of pushed me and motivated me, to be honest with you.
Okay.
So it was just things like that. Like it's funny, like, you know, I think what makes some people super successful is to find mentors, right? And not gonna lie,
Yes.
it's been pretty tough to find people that are like-minded or within the same industry a little bit in Vancouver, at least. It's been a little bit tough, but
hmm
having a friend like that, I mean, I don't think I'd be where I am right now, to be honest with you, with all that stuff if it wasn't for him. So big shout out to him.
Because I think it's
Well,
so important to pause for a minute, and really think about the people that have changed our lives.
that was a really good question.
Okay. Have there been any unexpected challenges or obstacles that you faced in marketing lobster oil? You
Yeah.
came in later on in it, but it sounds like TikTok and social media and that kind of stuff, growing that because no one had done that before. That would be one, I think. But
hmm
anything else you can think of?
Yeah, big hurdles. I think it's more of a hurdle for myself, actually. We'll get into the podcast in like a second.
Definitely.
But what's been hard for me is, I'm not really passionate about cooking. Like, it's not something that really motivates me, to be completely honest with you. Like, camera and start cooking and I'm just like, it just doesn't excite me.
I get
So
it.
something that's been tough. Like, I was really consistent though on posting like every week, doing a brand new recipe, like from scratch. Like, my dad didn't want to get too involved into that, so there's a bit of research that needs to be done on my side. But
Okay.
it's been a challenge to stay consistent on doing that, right? To be
hmm
motivated on creating recipes, and that's like more of like a personal thing. But like, yeah, that's definitely been like a hurdle for me. Is at the end of it, like I think I kind of stopped posting on the lobster oil page. But that's been like I think my biggest challenge for that is staying motivated to create new recipes every time, to be honest with you. It's been tough.
Being a chef is really hard. That's why I created Voice4Chefs. And I went to cooking school. I spent 10 years in the business and left because of a drive-by shooting and some other things that happened. And
hmm
I wanted to do something else, but I miss it. I miss the people in the industry. I miss the passion and the purpose. And that's where Voice4Chefs came from, right? Is to
hmm
honor the chefs around the world and the people that work in this industry that work so
Yeah.
hard. So let's just talk more about your podcast.
Yeah.
Tell us about your podcast. I'd love for you to share the story about how it was created and who you're meeting, what you're doing, what the purpose is behind it.
Figuring out when I realized myself that I just wasn't as motivated to create content like that, like cooking videos anymore. I've always had an idea. I've always wanted to do something on YouTube or vlog or podcast. I've always wanted to do something like that, something in entertainment.
hmm
So for like, I believe the idea of the podcast was, I think it was like 2 years ago, probably a year and a half, 2 years ago. And for me, I always think about like, what are people like not doing? I'm always kind of
hmm
the person that's trying to be a little bit different than everybody else, right? So When I thought about podcasting, I'm like, there's not really that many podcasts about food. Like there is a lot of podcasts about people like interviewing chefs,
Right.
but I noticed there wasn't really a lot of podcasts about like anything related to food. So from chefs, of course, business owners, farmers, fishermen, mushroom pickers, could be a grocery store owner, like anything
Cool.
related to the food and yeah, food industry, right? So I thought about that for like a year and a half, 2 years, and finally took action literally this year, February was the first episode we released, and it's just another way to promote the lobster oil, and I love meeting people and networking, so I thought it'd be a perfect like hand in hand.
No, that's really, really cool.
Mhm.
Any stories you want to share? See, for me, I love every single episode, and I do share stories about different chefs and things like that, but I'm connected to every one of them. But I'm curious if there's any that you'd like to share with us.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, again, like, when it comes to podcasting or creating content, or it could be for your business or personal brand, it's a journey, right? It's not a marathon. It's not a sprint, it's a marathon,
That's
sorry.
very true.
you know so yeah, like, what we've been doing is I have a videographer that has a studio, so we've been filming it as well. So of course we record it, post it on what is it, Buzzsprout, I believe, and then they distribute on like Apple Podcasts and all
Yep.
that kind of fun stuff, and Spotify. And yeah, like I've been literally reaching out to people on over Instagram, saying that, hey, I'm starting this, unique idea. Be interested. I was wondering if you'd be interested on maybe coming on and sharing your story. So I think it's been good so far. Obviously, like
Okay.
there's a lots of learning along the way, right?
Oh
There's
yeah.
definitely, you know what I mean? Yeah.
I do know what you.
Right. So I'm excited. But yeah, like I think we've had what, 5 episodes. We have another one coming
Hmm.
up soon. I think the first one, obviously, as me being a host, it was not the best because it was my first time doing this. But my friend KCB, who's a beekeeper, she knows like everything like about bumblebees, like
I love
everything.
it.
It's
I
like
love it.
crazy. Yeah. So I think that was like the first episode was pretty cool. What else? We had one of our clients that's a fishmonger. Yeah, we had a bunch of different things, right? I'm just trying to make sure, like, when I have guests on, like, I want it to be like a completely different industry. Like, I'd want, like a chef one time, and then fishmonger the other, and then a vegan bar distributor, you know what I mean, or manufacturer. Like, I want it to be different for
Yes.
every episode.
Yes.
So that's been some of the challenges, but we're getting there for sure.
When you talk about podcasting, there are a lot of hurdles. And if
Hmm.
anyone is interested in podcasting, either here or on the Voice4Chefs podcast, and you hear this or you hear the replay, Buzzsprout is an incredible community to join. And if you're even thinking about podcasting, I would immediately join the Buzzsprout Facebook group because there's over 20,000 podcasters there, and
Wow.
they provide incredible advice. And then Buzzsprout also does their own podcast about how to start a podcast. And what I find along my journey when I meet people that are talking about a podcast is they just talk about it. They talk about it. They talk about it. A year goes by, and then maybe they start it or maybe they don't. So the key is just start it. I think that's the way to go. But getting back to the beekeeper, Hugo, my sister is a beekeeper.
Oh,
So I'm
cool.
going to tell her about this because I caught that some conversations on your podcast about it. And I know she'd just be so excited. She's also a musician and a teacher, but she has a beehive in her backyard. And,
Oh, cool.
it's a real cool passion, actually. So when we talk
Yeah.
about passions, what are your passions? Travel?
Yeah, good question. I mean, I'm a huge foodie, though, I'm not gonna lie. Like, I'm in
That's
Montreal.
awesome.
Um, it's like Vancouver is like it's pretty good for food. I mean, obviously we got like fresh
Oh, yeah.
seafood, but
Dim sum.
um,
Oh,
yeah, but for hidden gems, like I think Montreal is where it's at for when it comes to the food scene, at least here
hmm.
in Canada, I would say. Yeah, huge foodie. I was thinking about food for like a whole month before I came here. Like, we went to a really good Italian restaurant last night called Pepe's, I think. Oh, it was so
Okay.
delicious. But anyways, besides food,
What did you
I,
have? Come on. We have to, you're making
oh
me drool and everybody else
yeah,
too.
yeah,
So what did you
yeah.
eat?
I mean, there was four of us. We had lots of
Okay.
food. What did we order? We ordered like four different pastas, from like
Ooh.
Alfredo to rigatoni, like all different types, all homemade pastas. What else did we have? We had some like shrimp, like really small shrimp with like really good homemade mayonnaise, which was really delicious.
Okay.
What else? We had tartare, of course, beef tartare for
Okay.
sure. And then a bunch of different desserts like tiramisu, pistachio, cake, cheesecake, and some kind of mousse, chocolate mousse. It's really good. But yeah, besides food, yeah, just I love, staying fit. Like I really enjoy working out, spending time outside,
Okay.
spending time with my dad going fishing. That's something I really
Talk
enjoy
about that
doing.
because I'm a fly fisherman. So I just
Oh, are you?
rolled over when he talked about fly fishing around the world. That's my dream, and I've done it too.
Yeah, yeah, my dad's a big fisherman, like loves it.
Hmm.
Yeah, I mean, my dad and I, we spend a lot of time in the outdoors. I mean, living in British Columbia, we have like some of the most beautiful, forests here, and
Oh yeah.
and life as well, right?
Hmm.
You walk down the forest, you'll see maybe a black bear, some deers, or like ducks. It's just beautiful. But yeah, we spend a lot of time, bushwhacking for like what it's like 4 or 5.5 hours out from Vancouver.
Okay.
Finding lakes with our ATVs and our small boat and just spending time together. Like that's something we really enjoyed doing. Fishing for some trout, usually trout
I love
fishing.
it. I love
Hmm.
it. Yeah, he's
Yeah,
really passionate about trout.
yeah,
He talked about South America. I think it was
yeah.
Patagonia. Maybe it was
No, he went to
Patagonia.
Argentina.
Argentina. There we go.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
And he was talking about it. Then he talked about Belize because I've been there with my
yeah.
wife, bone fishing and tarpon fishing, and that is the utopia of fly fishing.
Wow.
Is to fish for them. You stand in the water. I will never forget it in Belize. We're a mile from shore we're with a guide in a boat. It's hot as hell, but loving it, right? And 2 feet of water, the guy jumps out of the boat and he's pushing the boat and he goes, "Get out." What do you mean get out? We're a mile from shore and there's sharks swimming around and there's, just fish everywhere. Get out. So we jumped out and we're in a sandbar a mile
Wow.
from shore in the middle of the Caribbean. And we fished all day and it was perfect utopia. And I'll
Yeah.
never forget it. So those moments are really special. It's really cool that you can share that with your father.
Yeah, we've been fishing to the Yukon as well, up north.
Okay, sure.
I think we stayed at like a fishing resort when I was in grade 10, so I think I was maybe 16, I would say at the time,
Hmm.
roughly.
Hmm.
And that was really cool. We just went to the Yukon, just him and my dad and myself, and we just spent like 7 days of just fishing. And I learned to fly fish there. I'm not really good anymore. It's been so long, but
Me
it
too.
was just so
Yeah.
magical. Catching some like trout that literally look like humongous salmons. It's unbelievable. It's crazy.
I'm embarrassed to say this publicly, but I think about it. I used to fish all the time, every weekend. I stopped when I started the podcast. That's where my
Oh
passion
no.
is, and I need
Okay.
to go back to it. So even talking about it, is great.
Yeah,
But we live in the Pacific Northwest in Seattle, and we have some amazing places too. But it
exactly.
doesn't touch where you live,
It's
up
different.
there. Oh my gosh. So, and that's some other questions I had.
Yeah.
Thinking about where you live in Vancouver, Canada, if I was to come visit or somebody that's listening is inspired and wants to check out Vancouver, what would you do? What would you show
Yeah,
them?
good question. That's a good question. Yeah, like it's funny. I actually had one of my friends, his family friend, actually asked me the same question 2 days ago.
Hmm.
The first thing though, if you're gonna come to Vancouver, like I would try to come in the summer if you can, just because it's more beautiful and doesn't rain as much because we're known for the rain here. But if you enjoy like, the outdoors and spending time outside, I mean, there's so many different types of hikes or different levels of it. I mean, the unique thing about Vancouver is you literally have the ocean and the mountains like 5 minutes away from each other, right? You can go grab a beer at a brewery that's like in downtown Vancouver and have a view of the mountains. And then at the same time, you can quickly, grab an Uber or a bus to West Vancouver and go for a nice walk by the beach. Like there's just so many outdoor things, or go for a walk in Stanley Park, which is like this giant
Oh yeah,
park right by the ocean. Oh, it's just so beautiful.
we
Um,
rollerblade there too. That was
yeah, that's
an
cool.
incredible experience, or
I
bike
know.
ride.
Yeah, yeah, it's amazing. Like Vancouver it's beautiful. But yeah, I would definitely recommend coming in the summer if possible, or September, yeah, around that time.
And thinking of Vancouver, do you have any dim sum place? Is it Richmond that has really good dim sum, if I remember correctly?
Yeah, yeah. Richmond is more, yeah, it's definitely more of how do I say, like an Asian cuisine influence in that area
Hmm.
in Vancouver for sure. Personally, like I eat my dim sums in downtown Vancouver. Like I know a few spots,
Oh,
like a place called Pink Pearl, or
okay.
the Golden Gate, which is another one.
Hmm.
But yeah, like Richmond is a really good place for any kind of Asian food. To be honest with
Okay.
you, yeah, it's
Oh,
really
that's
good.
awesome. That's awesome.
Hmm.
Yeah. Um, you know, I love dim sum. I just absolutely love it because you get to try so many different things. And where I live in Seattle, we have carts, right? And people wheel around carts and you can see all the different foods that are prepared. So if you're new to dim sum, it's easy to understand what the food looks like. But in
Yeah.
Vancouver, they don't have carts. You order from the menu. So,
Yeah.
um, and as we go along, I want to make sure to give you an opportunity. Is there any special message that you want to share on Clubhouse or with the world?
Yeah. Yeah. I think I know it's just so like, so many people say this, but I really do believe that, anybody can do anything if you really put your mind to it. It
Mm-hmm.
could be anything from like, doesn't have to be about like just business, but like personal goals or just motivation. Like anything is doable. Like I truly do believe that. And it's super important to just, surround yourself with like-minded people and try to just stay in like a environment where you can thrive in, right? So I think, yeah, my biggest message is just keep pushing through. Like it's just it's just one more day closer to wherever you want to be at, right? So I think that'd be my biggest message I'd want to share with everybody on the call today. Like, what motivates you?
Oh my God, I'm insane. My wife will tell you, there's a really cool test you can take called Strength Finder. And a lot of
Okay.
people follow that. And Strength Finder helps you identify what your real strengths are in life because you take
Right.
this series of questions like a Myers-Briggs test. And
Hmm.
I discovered that one of the things about me is I hit the ground at zero every day. And what that
Yeah.
means is I have to accomplish something every day to feel good about who I am. So the
Hmm.
podcast that kind of keeps me motivated for that, but it's tiring, it's a lot of work. I think what keeps me motivated right now is the stories, is learning from chefs and people in the hospitality industry, getting their perspectives, connecting them to other chefs, helping them along their journey. I just
Hmm.
really enjoy it. And then Food is Religion is just being connected to so many amazing people around the world and being on Clubhouse. I mean, I have a full-time job like a lot of people, but
Hmm.
it would be nice if I didn't, if I had more flexibility, because I would be here quite a bit more. But
Yeah.
I just love being connected to this community. It's just really inspiring. It inspires me to cook and try new things.
Yeah.
And, I love going out to restaurants. I love trying new foods and new cuisines. And it just, podcasting has really opened a lot of doors and opened my mind to the world, I would say, and now, oh my gosh, there's just so many interesting things, right? Just meeting you, right? Here we are
Yeah.
here in Vancouver, Canada. We got to go to lunch sometime. I'll drive
We
out
will.
there, but I'm going to wrap things up. But I want to thank you, Hugo, and Chef Mimi,
Yeah.
Paige, Lana, Tarika, Blue. Thank you all for joining us, and everyone from before Hiromi.
That would be great. Yeah. And I appreciate you guys having me on. And it's always great to network with people in the industry and just hear people's stories. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Thanks for joining us today. Follow us on Facebook. Find our website in the show notes. Subscribe on Spotify, iHeartRadio, or wherever you listen. Leave a comment with 5 stars and stay tuned for the next episode of Voice for Chefs.